Hello and welcome. In today's devotional, we're exploring the Bible story of the bitter water at Marah from Exodus 15:22-27. This story takes place right after God miraculously delivered the Israelites by parting the Red Sea. Imagine the scene. The Israelites have just celebrated an incredible victory over Pharaoh's army, singing and dancing on the shores of the Red Sea. They are full of joy and gratitude. But only 3 days into their journey through the desert, that joy wilts into worry as they find no water to drink. Their throats are dry and hope is fading. This is where our story begins. Moses led the Israelites into the wilderness of Shur. For 3 days, they traveled in the desert without finding water. You can imagine the relief when, at last, they see water ahead. Men, women, and children hurry toward it, but when they take a sip, they immediately gag. The water is bitter. It's undrinkable. They decide to call the place Marah, a Hebrew word that literally means bitter. Thirsty and disappointed, the people turn on Moses and grumble. "What are we going to drink?" they demand, Exodus 15:24. How quickly they forgot the God who had just a few days earlier moved the sea to save them. Instead of trusting God, they began to complain. Moses, however, responds differently. Rather than arguing with the people or panicking, Moses prays. He cries out to the Lord for help, and God answers his prayer in an unexpected way. God shows Moses a piece of wood, essentially a fallen tree limb, and tells him to throw it into the water. Moses obeys, tossing the wood into the bitter pool. Suddenly, a miracle. The water turns sweet. The bitterness is gone, and the water is now clean and refreshing. The people drink their fill. God has provided for their need in the middle of the desert, turning a bitter situation into a sweet one. At Marah, after sweetening the waters, God also gives the Israelites an important message. He tells them that this was a test of their faith and that going forward, if they listen to him and obey his commands, then he will take care of them and keep them healthy. He promises, "I will not bring on you any of the diseases I brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you," Exodus 15:26. Here God reveals one of his names, Jehovah Rapha, meaning the Lord who heals you. God not only healed the bitter water, he was able to heal the people's bitterness and meet their needs. After the trial at Marah, God leads the Israelites to their next stop, a place called Elim. In stark contrast to Marah, Elim is like a paradise in the desert, with 12 springs of fresh water and 70 palm trees providing shade. The Israelites set up camp there and enjoy a time of rest and abundance. It's a beautiful picture of how God can bring his people from hardship to blessing. In just a short span, they went from having nothing to drink to camping beside plenty of sweet water. The God of Israel proved that he could turn bitter waters into sweet and cares for his people even in the wilderness. The story of Marah isn't just about water, it's about faith and attitude. What can we learn from this moment in the Israelites' journey? Here are a few key takeaways for us today. Trust God in the bitter times. When life gets tough or bitter, we're often like the Israelites. We quickly forget yesterday's blessings in today's crisis. The Israelites had just seen God's power at the Red Sea, yet at the first sign of trouble, they doubted and complained. We too can lose sight of God's faithfulness when we face new problems. This story reminds us to trust that the same God who handled our big Red Sea miracles can also handle our everyday needs. If God could split a sea for them, he can certainly provide water in a desert, and he can provide for us in our hardest situations.
God can turn bitterness into blessing. Marah shows that God can transform bitterness into sweetness. He literally turned bitter, undrinkable water into sweet, life-giving water for his people. In our lives, God can take bitter experiences, pain, disappointment, hardship, and bring something good out of them. It might not happen instantly like it did at Marah, but God specializes in redemption. Often our greatest growth comes through trials. The Bible narrative even highlights that God did not respond with anger at the people's complaining. Instead, he responds to their bitterness with blessing. In the same way, the Lord can take a situation that tastes bitter to us and in time turn it into a sweet blessing. He can use our difficulties to strengthen our faith, build our character, and show us his loving provision.
Pray instead of grumble. A big contrast in this story is between the people and Moses. The people complained and blamed. Moses prayed and trusted. When we face a crisis, we have the same choice. It's easy to start grumbling when things don't go our way, to vent our frustration or look for someone to blame. But Moses sets an example by immediately taking the problem to God. Prayer should be our first response, not our last resort. A simple, honest prayer, "Lord, help," can open the door for God's intervention. Next time we find ourselves at a bitter water moment, let's remember to cry out to God rather than just complain. He hears us, just as he heard Moses, and he can provide solutions that we'd never imagine. God is our healer and provider. At Marah, God revealed himself as Jehovah Rapha, the Lord who heals you. This is more than just about purifying water. It shows God's heart to heal and restore. He healed the water, and he also wanted to heal the attitude of his people, to cure their lack of faith. We all experience moments of bitterness or brokenness, whether in our circumstances or in our hearts. God can heal those places. He can heal our bitter heart by teaching us to trust him. And notice that after the test of Marah, God led his people to the refreshment of Elim, showing that he ultimately desires to bless his children. In the same way, we can trust that God will provide for us. He may allow us to go through the wilderness, but he'll also give us the strength or the respite we need at the right time. He is both our healer and provider.
Thank you for joining me in this devotional reflection. May you go into your week trusting God even in the bitter moments, confident that he can turn bitterness into blessing and bring you to your own Elim of refreshment in his perfect timing.